Welcome to Priviso Live, your weekly dose of ICT legislation, risk, information security, and AI news with my fellow hosts Stephen and John. Good morning, gang.
Good morning, Lynn, and listeners.
Yes, hello all. A lot to discuss, as usual.
We've mentioned Alan Turing before, but in the main section of the podcast, we discuss his impact in detail. But first, a crafty phishing campaign that's fooling users with a tiny but powerful trick, using a Japanese character that looks like a slash to mask fake links as legitimate ones. Let's break it down.
Security researcher James W.T. uncovered a phishing campaign targeting Booking.com customers. Attackers are replacing forward slashes in URLs with the Japanese hiragana character Unicode 3093, which in certain fonts closely resembles /n or ~.
Visually, the link appears to be a standard subdirectory.
But the actual link uses hiragana, so it might look like that to the eye, but it really directs users to a fraudulent domain controlled by attackers.
This trick is a type of homoglyph attack, where characters from different scripts look deceptively alike. It's part of a broader set of tactics involving internationalized domain name homograph attacks. Attackers exploit subtle visual familiarity of characters in certain fonts, especially on mobile devices where URLs are truncated, or the character spacing hides the deception, or compose links, which appear legitimate unless carefully inspected.
Once users click the link, they're taken to a malicious site that deploys an MSI installer, potentially dropping info-stealing malware or remote access Trojans on their system. This attack is part of a wider trend where Unicode-based deception is becoming a go-to for phishers alongside techniques like swapping I for L in Intuit's name. Hardly noticeable unless you peer at the URL.
To stay safe, hover before you click, examine the domain before the slash, use trusted antivirus or endpoint protection software, which can catch the malicious payloads acquired via phishing, and for enterprises and developers, improving visual distinction of characters in UI elements, especially in browsers and email apps, can help mitigate visible homoglyph risks.
Phishers are stepping up their game with tiny tricks that prey on our instincts. This slash deception is a clever and dangerous reminder that appearances can deceive. So always inspect links carefully, use robust security tools, and stay one step ahead of the attackers.
Then Truecaller, widely used here in South Africa, is now under investigation for possible violations of POPIA.
Truecaller is a caller ID and call blocking app that helps users identify unknown numbers, flag spam, and manage communications. South African companies and individuals have lodged complaints with the information regulator, alleging that Truecaller may be violating POPIA by misusing personal data and imposing fees for supposedly whitelisting business numbers.
The regulator has confirmed an investigation is underway and noted it will only take action if Truecaller's data practices breach POPIA.
The complaints focus on two major issues. Firstly, labeling legitimate numbers as spam. Businesses, especially call centers and ISPs, say their numbers are being flagged as spam, harming their operations and customer trust. Some allege Truecaller charges fees to reverse the spam label at roughly R2.18 per call.
Secondly, non-consensual data uploads. Truecaller encourages users to upload their entire contact lists to strengthen its spam database, which may include individuals who never consented to participate. Under POPIA, Truecaller, not the user, is deemed the responsible party for processing that data, even if users supply it. Legal experts argue that Truecaller may be in breach if it can't demonstrate informed consent, transparent data handling, and safeguards against misuse.
South Africa's Protection of Personal Information Act enshrines citizens' rights over their personal data. Key principles include consent. Data must be collected lawfully and with clear informed permission. Accountability, platforms like Truecaller are responsible for data processing practices, and transparency and opt-out, in which users and non-users must know when their data is captured and have options to delete it. If found non-compliant, Truecaller could face enforcement notices, penalties, or required changes to how it handles personal information.
Truecaller denies wrongdoing. The company insists it doesn't offer paid whitelisting services and maintains that false claims to the contrary are based on misunderstanding. It emphasizes that user reports, not payments, drive spam labeling.
Truecaller also highlights features meant to empower users, like editing profiles, downloading your data, and opting out entirely. Still, the outcome of this investigation could set a significant precedent in how user-generated data platforms, especially those operating globally, are held accountable under POPIA in South Africa.
So what should you do right now? Well, use Truecaller judiciously, check settings like unlisting your number or opting out, and stay informed. Watch for updates from the information regulator as the investigation unfolds. Bottom line, in the fight against spam, convenience shouldn't cost our privacy.
In news out of Johannesburg, the city is taking steps to repeal a highly controversial bylaw that regulated privately owned CCTV systems. Here's what's unfolding and why this matters to residents and businesses alike.
In February 2025, Johannesburg's Municipal Council passed a bylaw requiring property owners to register any CCTV cameras overlooking public spaces. The legislation also demanded annual renewal with fees, inspections by city officials, and prohibited sharing footage with anyone other than the SAPS or JMPD. In effect, private or community policing groups were excluded. Property owners and associations were burdened with red tape, and the bylaw even permitted inspectors to confiscate equipment without a court order.
The law ignited fierce opposition. The South African Property Owners Association and civil group organisation Undoing Tax Abuse both launched legal challenges. Autar described the rules as unworkable, convoluted, and unconstitutional, arguing that they infringe on property rights, privacy, and exceed municipal authority. Sepoe, meanwhile, took the city to court in May 2025, asserting that the bylaw had been promulgated unlawfully.
Johannesburg's legal team has confirmed that a repeal motion will be tabled at the upcoming municipal council meeting at the end of this month. The city acknowledged the backlash and appears ready to reverse course. Sepoe welcomed the move but offered caution. Until the bylaw is officially repealed and legal costs settled, their court action remains active.
This repeal is significant for several reasons. Firstly, property and privacy. Mandatory registration and labeling of cameras, plus data sharing restrictions, raised concerns over privacy, and a misplacement of policing powers. Autar highlighted the constitutional conflict, noting that local governments shouldn't commandeer private security systems. Then, administrative burden and costs. The layers of approvals, engineering sign-off, fees, and renewals were widely seen as expensive and impractical, potentially discouraging CCTV use altogether. Finally, community safety. Those opposed argued the bylaw could backfire. By reducing adoption of CCTV systems, it might weaken community-driven security measures, ironically making neighborhoods less safe.
As we await the Council's August decision, here's what to watch. Until the bylaw is officially struck down, property owners remain in legal limbo. Sepoe has stressed it will only drop its case post-repeal and cost settlement. There's also likely to be debate on whether a revised, more consultative and balanced approach to CCTV regulation is needed, or if the city should step back entirely. This case touches on how municipalities can regulate private security infrastructures and whether policies must better align with constitutional principles and public input.
So stay tuned to see how this plays out and whether a more community-friendly approach will emerge.
Segueing to other news. Just days after GPT-5's release on August 7th, two independent firms, Neural Trust and SPLX, demonstrated how easily the model can be jailbroken. Their conclusion: GPT-5 is nearly unusable for enterprises out of the box.
Let's break it down. Neural Trust used what's called an echo chamber jailbreak, a narrative-driven, multi-turn approach that subtly manipulates context over a conversation, never asking anything overtly malicious, yet ending up coaxing GPT-5 to outline how to build a Molotov cocktail. That's a red flag. It shows the model's filters are vulnerable when pushed through conversational storytelling.
SPLX put GPT-5 through over 1,000 adversarial test scenarios, including prompt injection, hallucinations, and business alignment breakdowns. The default unprotected version scored a mere 2.4% on security, 13.6% on safety, and only 1.7% on business alignment metrics. For comparison, GPT-4 performed significantly better under similar testing. Their additional tests with a basic system prompt and a hardened prompt improved scores substantially, but the unmodified version remains dangerously weak.
So, what does this mean for enterprises? In this day and age, a model that can be manipulated into divulging illicit instructions or leaking sensitive information is a liability. Red lines for enterprise, like refusing disallowed content, maintaining confidentiality, or refusing to promote competing vendors, can't be assumed to stand firm in GPT-5's current state.
Research from broader red teaming operations reinforces this. Once context manipulation and prompt injection techniques enter the picture, even advanced models can be propelled into unsafe or non-compliant behavior.
To wrap up, GPT-5 may indeed be smarter or faster, and OpenAI asserts they logged thousands of red teaming hours prior to release. But as of now, it's not enterprise-ready by default. If your organization is deploying GPT-5, you must implement hardened prompt layers, runtime guardrails, and conduct regular red teaming or third-party safety audits.
We've got some sobering numbers today for anyone thinking of majoring in computer science or engineering. Federal Reserve data shows computer science grads now face 6.1% unemployment and computer engineering, a staggering 7.5%. That's the third worst of any major. By comparison, art history and biology grads have just 3% unemployment.
That's the irony. Everyone used to laugh at the art history majors, but now the joke's on us. And remember, since the early 2010s, the mantra was learn to code. It drove enrollment to over 170,000 undergrads by 2024. But the ground has shifted under their feet.
Right. And not just shifted, it's eroded. Elon Musk is warning, probably none of us will have a job because of AI. Bill Gates, he's changed his tune, now telling students to focus on AI, energy, and biosciences. Entry-level tech jobs, the ones meant to train new talent, are disappearing across industries.
We've covered how AI coding agents can generate thousands of lines of code instantly, replacing junior developers. But it's not just tech. Wall Street banks are eliminating junior analyst roles as AI handles pitch decks and valuation models.
And LinkedIn's warning that AI is breaking the career ladder across finance and professional services. The result? College graduate unemployment now above 6%, even though national unemployment sits near 4%.
One story really stuck with me, a computer science graduate who applied to 5,762 US tech jobs and got only 13 interviews. That's a brutal hit rate, and it shows how competitive and oversaturated the entry-level market has become.
The danger is, without those stepping stone jobs, we can't develop the next generation of skilled professionals. We may end up with a gap, AI doing the grunt work, a handful of senior experts supervising, and nothing in between.
So the advice to students has to evolve. Don't just learn to code, learn how to work with AI, build domain expertise, and look to sectors like energy and biosciences where automation is slower to take over?
Exactly. The career ladder's not gone entirely, but it's missing rungs. If you're climbing, you'll need to improvise footholds the old paths didn't require.
And that's a challenge our education system and the job market hasn't yet figured out how to meet.
And now on to the main topic, Alan Turing.
Let's start at the beginning. Turing was born in London in 1912. By all accounts, he was the sort of child teachers describe as distractingly brilliant. He tinkered constantly, chemistry experiments at home, cycling miles to school during a transport strike, and devouring science texts far beyond his grade level. He struggled with the classical emphasis at Sherborne School. The headmaster wanted polished Latin verse. Turing wanted to prove things. But he did find a deep friendship and first love in a classmate, Christopher Morcom, whose early death devastated him. That grief channeled into an almost spiritual commitment to science. It's striking. The personal loss sharpened his conviction that nature, mind, and matter could be explained with rigor.
And he ran, literally. Long-distance running became his thing. Post-war, he clocked times not far off Olympic standards. That endurance mindset shows up in his research too. He was willing to grind away at a hard problem for years.
Fast forward to 1936 and his paper called On Computable Numbers. Stephen, give us the 1 minute why it matters.
Turing formalized the idea of computation with a thought experiment, a Turing machine. It's a simple model, a tape, a read-write head, and rules. But it captured what it means to compute anything mechanistically. He also showed there are problems no machine can solve. The halting problem. That paper is the DNA of computer science. After Cambridge, he studied with Alonzo Church at Princeton, then returned to Britain just as history took a dark turn.
War. In 1939, he joined Bletchley Park, the British code-breaking centre. The German military's Enigma cipher was considered unbreakable. But Polish cryptanalysts had already made crucial early breakthroughs. Turing and colleagues built on that foundation.
So, what did Turing actually do at Bletchley?
Several things. First, he devised key techniques and helped design the bomb, an electromechanical device that tested Enigma settings at high speed, and industrialization of insight. With Gordon Welchman's improvements, bombers ran day and night. Turing also led Hut-8, focused on the German Navy's notoriously tough Enigma. He developed Bonbarismus, a statistical method to reduce the search space. Net effect? Allied convoys could anticipate U-boat wolf packs. Some historians estimate that this code-breaking shortened the war by years. Even if you take the conservative view, it saved countless lives.
And here's a governance point. Bletchley was a triumph of interdisciplinary teamwork under intense secrecy. Mathematicians, linguists, engineers, and administrators. It's a sobering contrast to peacetime recognition. Many Bletchley veterans couldn't discuss their work for decades.
After the war, Turing turned to building real electronic computers. The National Physical Laboratory asked him to design the Automatic Computing Engine, the ACE.
His ACE report was visionary. Stored program architecture, fast memory, subroutines, even ideas we'd call operating system-ish today. Bureaucratic delays meant he later moved to Manchester and worked on the Ferranti Mark I, one of the world's earliest commercial computers. And he wasn't just a hardware brain, he also tackled biology. His morphogenesis paper explains how simple chemical reactions can produce stripes on zebras or whorls on flowers. Those Turing patterns still appear in modern simulations.
Now to the heart of the AI conversation, Turing's views on machine intelligence. In 1950, he published Computing Machinery and Intelligence.
The paper opens with the question, "Can machines think?" which Turing promptly reframes. He proposes the imitation game, now known as the Turing test. Instead of debating definitions, he asks, If a human judge converses blindly with a human and a machine and can't reliably tell which is which, should we say the machine is intelligent? Turing thought that by about 50 years on, machines might fool judges at least some of the time.
What's elegant is that he sidesteps metaphysics and provides an operational test. He also foresees objections. The mathematical objection, limitations proven by Gödel Turing, the consciousness objection, and even religious and creative objections. And he responds to them. It's an early masterclass in AI ethics and philosophy.
Let's detail the test itself.
Classic version, a text-only conversation over a limited time. The judge asks anything. The machine tries to appear human. Pass-fail depends on whether the machine's responses are indistinguishable from a human's to some threshold. Turing didn't canonize a specific time window or score. It was more a thought framework than a standards body protocol. But it seeded decades of chatbot contests and, more importantly, public imagination.
So, has the Turing test been broken?
Depends on what you mean by broken. Narrowly, there have been publicity-friendly cases where systems fooled judges under constrained rules or short timeframes. But as models improved, we also realized the test measures imitation, not understanding. A modern large language model can be incredibly fluent, yet still hallucinate, fail at planning, or lack stable beliefs. The Turing test doesn't assess grounding in the physical world, long-term causality, or moral agency.
From a governance perspective, the issue is incentives. If you prioritize sound human, you might overlook alignment, safety, and verifiability. Turing wouldn't have wanted us to stop at superficial tricks. He aimed for a serious investigation into capability. Today, we supplement conversation tests with a range of evaluations: factual calibration, tool use, robustness, adversarial prompts, transparency, and harm avoidance. You could argue that the core idea of the test, pragmatic, task-focused measurement, continues through these multi-dimensional benchmarks.
Nicely put, the Turing test started the conversation, and modern AI safety eval work broadens it. Now, the hard part, Turing's personal life and the law. John?
In 1952, Turing reported a burglary which led police to discover his relationship with another man, Arnold Murray. Homosexual acts between men were criminalized in England under gross indecency laws, and Turing was prosecuted. Facing prison or treatment, he accepted what was called chemical castration, estrogen injections with profound physical and psychological side effects. He also lost his security clearance, which curtailed some research and government consulting.
The ethical tragedy is stark. A man who helped win a war for freedom was stripped of dignity and agency by his own state for his private life.
Decades later, the UK issued a formal apology in 2009, a royal pardon in 2013, and a broader Turing's Law provision in 2017 to pardon others convicted under those laws, symbolically meaningful, though nothing restores what was taken from him personally. Turing died in 1954 from cyanide poisoning. The image many know is a half-eaten apple by his bedside, leading to the enduring Snow White narrative. John, what do we actually know?
The coroner ruled it a suicide. Turing had easy access to cyanide for experiments. He was electroplating and handling chemicals at home. Some believe he intentionally poisoned the apple. Others, including his mother, suspected it was an accident. Perhaps inhalation from a lab mishap or accidental contamination. The apple was never tested. We cannot be certain. What is clear is that he was under immense pressure, social isolation, legal consequences, and career pressures. Even if it was accidental, the circumstances are undeniably tragic.
The iconography, the apple, tells you how hungry we are for a simple symbol. But his life resists simplification. He was curious, playful, stubborn, deeply principled, and complicated.
Let's zoom back out to legacy. Stephen, the technical ledger.
3 pillars. 1, theory of computation. Turing machines, undecidability, and the foundation of what's computable. Every modern compiler, operating system, and algorithm implicitly owes him. 2. Practical computing. Ace concepts, Manchester work, and engineering instincts ahead of his time. 3. Applied math across domains. Cryptanalysis in war and morphogenesis in biology. Proof that computation is a universal lens.
On the societal ledger, Turing is now a symbol on the UK £50 note, namesake of the Turing Award in computer science and a touchstone in LGBTQ+ history. But legacy isn't just medals, it's the way his questions still structure our debates. What do we owe pioneers when their private lives clash with public norms? How do we measure intelligence responsibly? How do we govern technologies that outpace law?
And for AI in 2025, here's my take. Turing's genius wasn't predicting a specific milestone. It was insisting on testable claims and confronting objections head-on. If we keep that spirit, transparent evals, rigorous safety, humility about limits, then we honor him better than any statue could.
Also, remember his playfulness. He once chained his mug to a radiator at work to stop borrowing. That hacker culture forebear vibe? It's a reminder that curiosity and mischief often sit next to brilliance.
And justice. The late pardons matter because they tell future scientists that society can learn. Governance is slow, but it bends, eventually, toward dignity.
Final lightning round, one sentence each. Turing's legacy in a nutshell.
The blueprint. Theory that became machines, and machines that became the modern world.
A moral compass. Protect the minds who protect the public, even when they challenge our norms.
A challenge: keep asking better questions about intelligence and hold ourselves to better answers. And that's it for this episode. If you want to hear more of the same, subscribe to Priviso Live on Apple, Samsung, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or YouTube.
And if you need security, risk, or ICT legislation advice, contact Priviso Consulting directly at admin@priviso.co.za.
Stay safe, everyone.